We've got our first two teams in the quarterfinals of the 2026 World Cup. David Goss here with you as we are live every single morning for First Touch 26 from our Kickback Studios in New York City. And coming off the fireworks, that's a generic term because of July 4th. Nailed it on that one. We are back for a little bit more to talk about the teams that have passed through and to talk about the big games coming up later today as we are on tap for Brazil to play Norway in what is luckily a cooled down New York, Finally. New Jersey area. And then we are going down to Mexico City to see if 11 Englishmen can survive anything that isn't perfect weather and perfect conditions.
Have you ever gone for a jog around?
No, I'm not an idiot.
The Azteca?
People do these things. They're like, oh, I went on vacation and I like to go for a run to like see the space. I don't go for a run on vacation. What a goon thing to do. I eat food, I drink, I walk around, I meet people, I look at things. I don't go for a run. I hate that about people. I absolutely hate that.
That reminds me of that gym commercial. I pick things up and I put them down. Yeah. I look at things.
The official reports are coming out that British journalists are incapable of going for runs in Mexico City. So that should heavily affect everything that occurs later today. So we're going to get the Viking row
2 hours of sleep
up against Brazil, and then we're going to get Mexico, England to close out the night at the Azteca. The internet has been electric over this.
Is this a hate watch for you, or is this a love watch for you?
No, hate, because I don't like Mexico.
Right, but you love CONCACAF.
Yes,
I do love CONCACAF. And congratulations to Paraguay on being adopted into CONCACAF for their performances over the last two games. You are welcome in our party. I do love CONCACAF. I love everything about it. I said it coming into the tournament. I am most excited for people who have never experienced it before to experience it and realize maybe Latvia away is not the hardest possible game you could have to qualify for an international competition. It will be a first-time experience for many people. We've got a lot to talk about, of course. Canada versus Morocco. Drama. It obviously hurts my heart very heavily coming out of that game. And then the Paraguay performance, which, based off similar British reporters, it's incredible that France survived such a lethal attack using weapons of sorts and thugs who came across the lines and attacked them. So a bit of a miracle down in Philadelphia, the second miracle in 250 years in Philadelphia to occur. So it was a really big moment.
Look at you.
For the French.
On fire.
Tying it all together.
Firing. But to start out today's show, we're going to set the stage a little bit on some of the big awards, which will be a big part of the end of this tournament as we go forward, as it is for every single competition. We will have our final end of the tournament awards that we will be doing, sponsored by Football Manager. Football Manager 26, still 50% off until July 9th. So make sure you go in there. You can play international mode. You can play as the teams at the World Cup, or you can just go off and build your own team like Tom is out on the West Coast as he follows the U.S. men's national team and plays as Charlton. So we're going to talk through here the Golden Ball, the best young player, the Golden Gloves for the best goalkeeper, and then we will talk defenders of the tournament, which no one here wants to talk about, but we will do it because Connor said that we had to, and he's sitting.
I want to.
He's sitting cross-armed out there, making sure that we do it because this is not a democracy. This is Connor's world, and we are all living in it. Let's start with the Golden Ball, and my friend Jordan over here is going to get us started very simply. This is the Golden Boot standings. So for anyone out there listening who might be a little bit confused, the Golden Boot is given based on statistics to the best goal scorer in the tournament. If it's not a single goal scorer, it goes down to minutes played first, and then it goes into assists. Right now, Lionel Messi leads the charts with 7. Kylian Mbappe, who has played more games than Messi, is tied on 7. Erling Haaland has 5. Harry Kane has 5. And Ousmane Dembele has 4. The Golden Ball is an award voted on by media for the best player in a tournament. So completely subjective to what you consider the best player. I thought it would be a simple way to start this, that list, that Golden Boot list. Is there anyone not on that list right now that you think has a legitimate shot to win the Golden Ball?
Yes. Michael Olise. I think he's the best player that I have seen at this tournament so far. Even though he wasn't great yesterday, he survived the vicious attacks. But he's what he did in the group stage, what he did in the round of 32, he is the best player I have seen this summer. I do not think he will win it.
Okay.
Because Lionel Messi is in the running. And we know what happens as MLS fans when Lionel Messi is in the running to
For
win
a
an
media
award. For a media voted award. Yeah.
Yeah, but Argentina is going to get knocked out in the quarterfinals by Colombia, so that takes Messi out of the equation.
Right.
I completely agree with you. I think Michael Olise has been the best player in this tournament by quite a distance, actually. That's how impactful he is for this French national team. He has been, for me, insofar as catalyzing the attack, the missing piece for this French national team. The fact that he can seamlessly move from the right to the center, to that number 10 position, only elevates him, in my estimation. Was your question about the list Golden Ball or Golden Boot as well?
Ball.
Golden Ball, okay. Because I would also add a player to the Golden Boot just because he was my pick. I don't know how many goals he has, and that would be Mikel Oyarzabal. Yeah. You still have a chance, buddy.
He has 4 goals.
But just
Four goals.
don't score against Portugal.
So there's a little bit of evidence for your pick with Olise. Harry Kane was the Golden Boot winner in the Bundesliga. He was the Golden Boot winner actually in all of Europe in the calculations they do with that, whatever. And Olise won Bundesliga Player of the Year with his 19 assists and 19 goals, 25 assists.
Yeah.
So there is a model there of people understanding Olise's value to a team, even when he plays on a team with the Golden Boot winner, which Kylian Mbappe very well could be.
Well, I would hope that the people making these decisions, people who have covered soccer for a very long time, would know how to make these discernments.
So Mbappe, Messi, Haaland, Kane, that was that list.
Yep.
Ousmane Dembele on the bottom had the hat trick to close out the group stage. And then you've added Michael Olise.
Yeah.
I assume Vinny Jr. has a shout at this as well. He's right behind this group, I think, on goals scored. I think he's the most impactful player for Brazil. I think if Brazil goes on a run, he's got a shot at this because I think he's the leader of that team. And it feels like people understand that. Felt that way against Japan, even without the goals. Julian Quinones, 3 goals, 1 assist. I assume if Mexico wins, he will have a hand to play in it against England. Now you're into a quarterfinal, something Mexico's never done before. Wherever this goes, I think at some point, whoever goes the deepest for the first time ever, a player on that team will have a shot at this. Otherwise, it probably comes down to the final.
We talked about this yesterday, not on the show, but afterwards as we stuck around. And I went on another show, how dare I, and somebody asked me about which team goes into this tournament with the most pressure. And the automatic answer should really be Brazil, just because of the weight of that jersey. And I'm reminded of that conversation only because I didn't even think of Vinicius.
Yeah, I find that crazy. You were giving me a look.
For some reason, Brazil doesn't enter into my calculus, or Brazilian players.
Well, they haven't been fun.
Haven't entered into my calculus. But isn't it strange that we're talking about a World Cup and impactful players and teams that should win it, or at least the pressure that surrounds them?
It's not 2002, man.
That's true.
This is a different era for Brazil. I think even Brazilian fans aren't particularly psyched on this team. Vinny's a great player. He is a level below what we've seen from Olise, Mbappe, Messi.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Who does Olise play with? 2 other guys on this list.
For sure.
Mbappe as well.
And
Who
how
does
did
Vinny Jr. play with?
And how
Casemiro?
And how did they look before Olise was moved inside to be the number 10 for this France team?
And I don't know if that's
so
a good
that should
comparison, by the way.
disqualify Mbappe and Dembele for being a part of this
I think
conversation.
so.
But it's interesting-
Dembele belongs nowhere near that list.
that's
But
fair.
it's interesting that you brought up Casemiro when you were comparing the players that he plays with, because up front, he does play with quality players. I'm not saying that nobody's at the caliber of those
but
French
Mateus
nationals.
Cunha is not Mbappe.
Is a
Cunha's
baller.
great.
He's a baller.
Due came off the bench, and he's a Champions League winner.
Listen, I'm not saying that
Marquinhos is captain. He's the only one who's
your
a PSG
point
guy.
stands. I'm just saying that it's interesting that you mentioned Casemiro, because somebody might say, well, look at Rabiot and, Kone, who I thought was very good yesterday.
Kone's better than Rabiot. It should be Kone and Chouameni. In that
Is
midfield,
Kone
but-
better than Rabiot?
Yeah,
I don't
he's
know
been
about
awesome.
that.
Well, you love Rabiot.
I do
in the
love
bag for
Rabiot.
it.
I don't love, his hairstyle, but I love Rabiot.
So just to put out there, Messi is the only person to ever win this award more than once. He won it in 2014, and then he won it again in 2022. So he would obviously be the only person to win it 3 times if he did it. And then Mbappe won it in 2018. I probably should have had that written down.
Yeah. I don't think he did win it.
No,
in
I don't think so
2018.
either.
Luka Modric won it.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
yes,
that makes
that's
sense.
right.
And Luka Modric is the model for non-goal scorer to win it. He's
Right.
not the first. Zidane has won it,
Yeah.
although Zidane scored some goals in his. Dino Zoff won one, I believe.
82.
Yeah.
Cannavaro.
So,
is,
yeah.
2006.
Cannavaro, I don't think won Golden Ball. I think he won Ballon d'Or. I don't think he won the Golden Ball at
No,
that
I'm
World
pretty
Cup.
sure he did. 2006. Or maybe I'm
I'm
wrong.
glad I had my research done.
I think you might be right.
I think
actually.
Zidane. Golden Ball, Ballon d'Or. Oh, God.
Zidane won it in
Yeah.
2006.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
I was
right.
ready for that one. I just was unconfident.
That's
in my
okay.
ways.
I just like how quickly you type.
So that is our Golden Ball. That's our projections there. What we like to talk about more and what we've done on this show.
Before we do that.
Yeah.
So Modric won in 2018, deservedly. Cannavaro and Zidane were the top two in 2006. As David said, none of those guys was really a goal scorer. Are there any non-goal scorers, non-primary creators in this year's field that have stood out in that way?
Wow, that's a really good question.
Because like 2 years ago in the European Championship, the best player, hands down, by far, was Rodri. Period. There was no argument for anybody else. He's not at that level anymore.
No.
Though
Pedri has not played at that level. I thought he was one that we would be talking about in this space. I think one of the issues right now is feels like a lot of the teams entering the round of 16 have been underwhelming in the way they've gotten there. And so it's hard to say that a Vitinha has stood out because his team hasn't stood out.
They're handicapped.
Yeah. And so, but what it takes to get over these next two steps, let's just say, into a semifinal, I think will expose who are the guys who make the difference for their teams. And if it's not just, oh, Harry Kane saved us, then it could be a Jude Bellingham, or that's not the right one. It could be a Declan Rice.
Yeah, I was
If it's
gonna say-
Declan Rice who carries you in some of these
It's
moments.
Declan Rice. I'm going out that window.
If it's Declan Rice,
So,
he's
but I
buying a
think he might
villa
be
in
one of the
Mexico
only
City.
players on that list, though, right now.
One of the data companies that tracks all these things went through the group stage and said the best midfielder in the entire group stage was Malik Tillman.
Yeah.
If the U.S.
What did I say a few days ago? Should be in the starting 11, World Cup starting 11.
If the
Best 11.
U.S. get past Belgium and miracle of miracles get past Spain or
Whoa, you're having a
Portugal,
real Jewish stretch over the last few days. My dad texted me, who said Dayenu? Continue.
if they get into the semifinals, do Malik Tillman, or in my opinion, the best player on the team has been Weston McKennie. Do either of those guys end up in this
I think so,
discussion?
because especially with Balogun being suspended for this game, that won't be a game where he stacks goals. So I don't think there will be a golden boot winner contention for a U.S. team. So if the U.S. makes a
Because
semi...
obviously, if Fuller and Balogun was playing tomorrow night, that's a hat trick.
Yeah,
so he's on
obviously.
6.
Yeah, clean.
Yeah.
I think if you look back at 0-2 with South Korea, it was a center back and Ji-Sung Park, who was just industrious, who were the two guys who got elevated into gold, best 11, silver ball, all that type of stuff. So I think that will be recognized for the U.S. if they were to get there. And I think Weston McKennie and Tillman would be the two that would stand out to most people.
People did not like my take about best 11 Malik Tillman.
Huh. I like that take.
Thank you.
I do think, though, that some of the other names who could sneak in this conversation, who aren't goal scorers, aren't purely goal scorers, are actually in the young player conversation. So we've been doing our level up for Football Manager 26 over the course of the tournament. Most of the guys that we had mentioned, to our credit, going into games, ended up being players who are now on this list. So for young player, it's 21 years old and younger. And of course, it is presented by Aramco, which is the only oil distributor that most young people like to use. So I thought that's
for sure.
Really good cohesion from FIFA and really nailed it on this one. The first name that comes up on this list, it has to be Johan Manzambi. 3 goals, 2 assists.
You did that because I took Julian Quinones in the Golden Boot draft.
Wait, I'm not taking it.
Okay, all right.
He is the best player on his team. And I say that in saying if Switzerland goes to a semifinal, Johan Manzambi is in a golden ball conversation.
He is, in terms of best young player, I think he is like Secretariat at the Belmont in this tournament, just like lapping the field. He has been spectacular for a team that 0 people enjoyed watching coming into this tournament, and he has elevated them in literally every phase of play to the point that even their dumbass coach finally put him into the starting lineup.
I think that's a great shout. I would put Buadi in there.
Yeah.
I thought his performance against Brazil was stellar. Has he been at that level since? I don't think so. And in the last game against Canada,
He came out in the 63rd.
wasn't his best, but that had to do not necessarily with him, but the collective, the Moroccan collective, and how well Canada played in the first half. The other one is Alex Freeman. I think the way he's defended, the fact that he's been also impactful in the attacking third, scoring against Australia, I think he has to be in the conversation. Is he at the same level as those two guys? No. And the preference, even though just a few minutes ago we were talking about who are those players who don't score goals, who don't get assists, who could be in the conversation, the preference is always for a more attacking player.
Right. So the point I would make about Alex Freeman, and I think he's fantastic, and his ascent over the past year is one of the keys to the U.S. playing at this level. Like, he could have done better on the one goal Paraguay scored, and he could have done better on Turkey's game winner.
Yeah.
So, like, those are two pretty, okay. I'm actually kind of glad they happened because he's a kid who learns really, really fast, like on the fly. And I think he's better because of that. But if you're comparing him for golden ball purposes or best young player purposes, I think those are marks against him.
Let me just add one thing about Alex Freeman. He's also playing in a system that requires him to do a lot of thinking.
Everything.
Right? So that's important. Because when we talk about defenders, I mean, there's a variety of defensive profiles depending on systems, right?
Yeah.
You're already laughing because you think I'm about to start talking about the next thing.
You clearly got a lot of juice for it.
Don't go to the next thing yet because I got one more name to throw in here.
The way defenders are used in this. So you mentioned Buadi.
He's not letting you get in.
You mentioned Buadi, who I think is one of the non-goal scorers where if his team goes far, semifinal, final, now you're talking potentially golden ball, but you're definitely talking young player. Desiree Doué came off the bench, big performance against Paraguay. Ryan, who we have done features about, his pressing, his movement, his assist in the group stage, the youngest Brazilian to have an assist at a World Cup since Pele. So whenever you're on a list with a guy like that, you're always going to get talked about in some of these big groups. Lamine Yamal is a clear one, but has not elevated his game. One goal and has not been great.
Another guy on that team.
Okay.
Spain have yet to give up a goal.
Yeah.
Their starting center back going 90 every single game is Pau Kubarsi. And he's a right-footed Catalan Tim Ream out there. He's a little bit undersized, not super athletic.
That's a really good comparison.
He reads everything 3 steps ahead of everybody else does. His distribution is what gets Spain out of any kind of, you can't press Spain, right? And he gets them out of one bind after another, and not in simple ways, in ways that actually break lines and changes the way you have to defend this team. I actually think if I couldn't vote for Manzambi, I think I would vote for Pau Kubarsi for best young player, and he might also be best defender.
That's a great shout.
We're going to talk about Golden Gloves in a moment, and obviously Spain will have a huge factor there in not conceding a goal so far. The other name that we didn't have in here so far, 2 more. One was Yan Diomande. He ends up with just 1 assist. He only plays the 4 games, so probably be pretty hard for him to get there, but he clearly has elevated. I think he, for young players, is arguably the most important to his team because he was the lead point of the attack for the Ivory Coast. And then the last one is someone who is emerging now and could have a really big day, which is Gilberto Moura. He's the youngest player at this World Cup. He stepped in as a starter for the first time to end the group stage against Czechia in a game they'd already won. He did enough to earn a spot in the biggest game maybe in Mexican World Cup history in that game against Ecuador. He comes out the gate flying after the weather delay and all the other stuff inside of it. And as the youngest player at this tournament, I would expect to see him start once again against England. It is a huge deal for Mexican soccer that they have a player even in this conversation, and one where if they keep moving on, he probably has a legitimate chance to be a finalist.
I think so. Certainly, if they get to the past England and into the quarterfinals, his name is in the mix. I mean, 24 years ago, Landon Donovan won Young Player of the tournament, and that was only a quarterfinal run. So he's right there if he puts up numbers and if he bosses this game against England the way he bossed the midfield against Ecuador. Now, it's a big ask. England is a better and more talented team than Ecuador, but they have not looked invulnerable. And Mora's got that thing about the way he receives the ball in traffic where he just is able to create 2 or 3 yards of space that then puts the opposing midfield into a panic. They start rotating towards him because they're like, how suddenly this guy has space. And then he has the ability to pick passes off of that puts his attackers into better positions. And it's a force magnifying effect. And it's why I just love watching number 10s play. They have that, sixth sense about all of this stuff, and they connect their players, their attackers with the ball. And that's what we saw against a really great defensive Ecuador team. Gilberto Mora just ripped them up.
I was thinking about Mora coming in today and just what elevates him. And the one thing that stands out to me is also precision of movements, if that makes sense. He seems to always occupy the right space and make the right run. There was a triangulation early on in that game against Ecuador where he was effervescent, where I just thought, man, every single step you took with and without the ball was the right one, and nobody could track you.
And there was, I think I know what you're talking about, it was along the right side.
Yes.
And there was, the Ecuador defenders looked around trying to figure out what they got wrong. We're talking about 3 Champions
Because
League
it was
finalists.
There was traffic there.
But they're looking around saying, what's going on?
Right.
Where Mora understood, I'm going to play at pace. I'm going to make these guys suffer. And it was veteran stuff.
Yep.
And it's soccer IQ that's off the charts with him, which is why he is the youngest player in the history of soccer to win a senior international tournament. Younger than Lamine Yamal, younger than Pele. That's the list he's on. We're not talking Chicharito. I don't even think we're talking Cuauhtémoc Blanco. We're talking Hugo Sanchez when we start to compare this guy, because Real Madrid is looking, Man City is looking,
Rafa
Manchester
Marquez.
United is looking.
And I will implore him again, don't go to any of those teams. Go to Portugal.
Go to Como. Live on a lake.
That's actually a pretty
bit.
good idea.
Play for Sask. Hang out.
I mean, if
have
you
a
look
good
at what
time.
Como did for Nico
Actually,
Paz.
Yes, actually, that's a fantastic shout. Look at you.
Yeah. Hey,
Connoisseur.
I've already got Thomas Christensen to Ecuador, so I'm kind of on a bit of a run.
Right?
So just listen,
Wait a minute,
matchmaker,
you're gonna be my
matchmaker,
agent
make
too?
me
Wait a minute,
a
that
match.
happened? That's happened?
Well, we think it's going to happen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. All right, let's move to Golden Gloves. Let's start where Doyle brought us on the young player. We're going to start with Unai Simon, who has yet to concede a goal in 4 games. He leads the list on clean sheets. Now, he leads the list because Raul Rangel didn't play a full game in the end of the group stage in honor of El Patron Saint in Memo
What a moment.
Ochoa.
What a moment.
So he only gets 3 clean sheets, but he's obviously played 4 games and yet to concede a goal. Is Simon's spot to lose at this point?
I
Award?
think it's Vozinha, right? If you were going to pick one, the best
so
goalkeeper.
Vozinha is first in saves. He's
Yeah.
conceded 5 goals in the tournament and is now out.
Yeah. I still think it's
Don't
him.
forget what Michael Cox said. Was it with you? Who said that Michael
Me.
Cox? Was it
He
you?
said he wasn't that good. I
He
don't
wasn't
know.
that good?
Yeah.
For me, it's Diogo Costa.
Yeah. He's
For
been
a couple of
fantastic.
reasons. One, he is among the top 3 in goals prevented or top 4. But also how he's shown up in important moments for Portugal when their defense hasn't looked particularly good. Yeah. And with the amount of pressure that is on the team to do something in this tournament. So he'd be my pick. I know I'm a little bit biased, but I've had my issues with Costa, despite the fact that he saved 3 penalties in a Euro. I think he has some lapses, but I think he's been really, really strong. And I'm actually surprised that his goals saved metric isn't higher.
So you mentioned Vozinha, who's first in saves, along with Eloy Room, who obviously didn't get out of the
did it
group
all in
stage,
one
so only
game,
3
yeah.
games. Did it all in one game and conceded 8 goals across the other 2. And then Orlando Heel, who had a huge game for Paraguay against France, will finish right now when he leaves the tournament top 2 in saves at that moment. And I thought that double save against Mbappe
Tremendous.
is something else.
Yeah.
And like, that's one where, it's instincts, it's the right moment, it's shot placement, but to get up and get ready for that second save, that's like the thing you work on 7 days a
That
week.
might actually put him on top of everybody because people are going to remember that double save. They'll also remember the fact that he threw the ball at Kylian Mbappe, which for me just elevates him even more. Interesting what Gustavo Alfaro said after the game about him. He was talking about the style of play that Paraguay, we'll talk about that, was reduced to. Let's use that word. And he mentioned different players and where they were even a year ago or 2 years ago. And he said, this is a guy who nobody knew, who had to sell his jersey in order to pay for treatment for his daughter. And all of a sudden, he becomes one of the stars of this World Cup. And his life, like Vozinha's, but in a different way, will be transformed forever. He's going to get a move somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's at San Lorenzo now.
He's only 26 years old.
Yeah. And, like, he's he's at the very least heading towards Corinthians or Cruzeiro or one of the big.
I was going to say Atletico San Luis to then jump to Monterrey.
Fair, yeah. But
That's money.
yeah, no.
I'm saying Atletico Madrid.
Let me ask you this: Is Golden Gloves voted on by media in the same way Golden Ball is?
I actually don't know the answer to that
We
question.
had this written
Must
down,
be.
and I didn't bring it in. And now I'm looking at baseball stuff.
Wow.
So we'll get back to you.
Yeah. I'm really glad we had this moment.
Let's all get. Let's all get a computer.
No. This is according to an AI overview. The World Cup Golden Glove is not voted on by media. It's decided by the FIFA Technical Study
That's correct,
Group.
which is Wenger's group, which
Okay.
Luke de Frugal will win.
Okay, so
How did you say wrangle? I imagine him with a
Raul
cowboy,
Rangel?
cowboy hat.
Come on, bro. He's from El Paso.
if this was a voted on by media
Yeah,
award,
Vozinho would win.
Vozinho
Yeah,
would
yeah.
win by
Yeah.
a million. But
Not Michael
Instead,
Cox,
it's by
he wouldn't
the
vote for
soccer
him.
hater Arsene Wenger,
You're right.
king of the
that
offside
actually
rule.
makes Diego Costa maybe the leader.
Yeah.
He's also so good looking.
Okay, let's finish with defender. This is more arbitrary because it's harder to come to a specific list, so I'm just going to let you each pick some. I assume yours is Pau Kubarsi, where we stand right now.
He's surrounded by so much talent. Man, probably him. I will say, I think Tim Ream's got a shout in this. He's been incredible on both sides of the ball. His distribution, the ability to get the U.S. upfield in rhythm. The issue is it hasn't happened yet against top quality opposition. So, of course, compare what he did to Paraguay with his ball movement to what France was able to do or Germany was able to do against Paraguay.
I want to take this moment to sink my teeth into all the American soccer trolls who have been calling for Tim Ream to be expelled from this national team. For years, I've been shouting his praises. I think he is a terrific and complete defender. I think he's one of the smartest defenders in U.S. soccer. And I don't mean that just national team. I mean that we've seen in MLS. So amazing. Let me just make the statement that I made outside that Connor was so happy about. When it comes to defender in a tournament or defender of the year, I think we need to start leaving fullbacks out of the equation because modern football expects so much more attacking from fullbacks that I think it tilts the field in their favor. If you look at MLS, guys like
Wagner.
Kai Wagner is one, but Inter Miami, Jordi Alba.
Andy Nahar.
Nahar, who's been exceptional this year, one of my favorite players to
So
watch.
you think that we shouldn't vote for guys who have more responsibility to play both ways, that it should be purely held to guys who have minimal responsibility to only have to do one thing?
When you put it like that, I feel like it's too...
They're just different positions.
they're-
The idea of defender of the tournament being encompassing both fullbacks and center backs is antiquated. If you want to talk about guys who are primarily defenders, it would be center backs and defensive midfielders, right? Like
Yeah, that's a good point.
Tyler Adams belongs in this conversation in a way more than Achraf Hakimi does.
Yeah. And then I was thinking about, to sort of go off the rails here as I usually do,
Right.
Wingers versus center forwards. But the thing is, the winger has evolved so much as well that you can put them under the attacker umbrella. But having said all that, because for me, if you include fullbacks, I think Daniel Munoz is probably the guy, considering what he does on both sides of the ball, because he's also an excellent defender.
But so then why isn't that the line? Isn't the line
Because I
you're
think-
a great player on both sides of the ball,
Yes.
and you're a if you're a great defender who can't pass out of the back from a center back
Fair
position,
enough.
you're not going to win defender of the tournament.
And that's why Kubarsi would be also included in your accounting. But I will say this, I think his attacking is what takes him over the edge. When I think of the defenders that have really impressed me, Davison Sanchez would probably be my pick, slightly over Lukumi, because he does more with the ball at his feet, which goes into the argument that you're making.
I have Lukumi as one of my top two.
As
right
one
now.
of your top two. So those two are my top two. And the other one is, but he plays for France. I think Upamecano has been exceptional in this tournament as well. And he was a warrior yesterday in 99 degrees and like 70% humidity. He just beat everyone in their duels. Then you can bring Saliba into it, but he does things a little bit differently. So for me right now, Davinson Sanchez wins it.
I had Lukumi, and I think Ruben Dias. I thought the way he played against Croatia saved Portugal multiple times. And then it's let me get us back into the attack. Yeah. And I do think if they're going to break through against Spain and potentially go into a quarterfinal where they're favorites, because they will be against Belgium or the U.S., it is going to be a game where he probably needs to step into the attack and help them break things down. And I think he's capable of it. I thought those were the two from the center back position that have stood out to me. Davinson Sanchez I'd put on that list as well. I mean, they haven't conceded yet as a team. So or they conceded one. They lost. Didn't they beat Uzbekistan 3-1?
I think so, yes.
So they've both been super impressive. Obviously, Daniel Munoz, to your point, is going to take a lot of the credit because of the goals he scored. But he still stood up in every duel he had to against Ghana in some of the big moments. And when he came off the bench against Portugal, he changed the pace of the game.
He completely
and
did.
That's where they go and almost win it just because of the energy he helps bring.
And just think, we've just named 3 of the Colombian back 4.
We are pilled 100%. And
I
Michele's not even here.
I was about to start naming their D-mids as well because they've been fantastic.
Lerma has been unbelievable.
Yeah. Jefferson Lerma is the player that I grew up watching where that was my favorite player on every team.
I'm not surprised.
I did call you the Makalele of extra time.
Most of the time they came from West Africa.
Yesterday?
And now, what?
Did you see him yesterday?
Was he at the game?
Full suit in that
Nice.
heat.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. Great shades.
All right. Well, let's talk about yesterday a little bit more. And let's dig into, to start, Canada versus Morocco. A big game, a big moment for both these teams. For Morocco trying to make history for Africa and become the team that had qualified the most or won the most knockout games compared to the rest of Africa. That number has moved since they did it last week for the first time because Egypt won their game. So all of Africa has now won 4 knockout games at the World Cup, and Morocco has now won 4 knockout games at the World Cup. And for Morocco, of course, they continue to march on at a World Cup that they believe they're a contender to win. And even more importantly, they're setting themselves up for 2030, where they will be one of the co-hosts alongside Portugal and Spain. They will now play France in a quarterfinal on July 9th in Boston. That will be a rematch of the 2022 World Cup semifinal. And of course, there's some historical ties between Morocco and France coming into this game. But obviously, I feel this game very heavily on a Canadian side because of how excited I was for this Canada group and then the game that ended up playing out. Let's talk about the game first, and then I think we can talk about Canada big picture. Canada comes out flying in the first half. Huge flashpoint in this game is Ismail Sabiri, who has been maybe one of the 2 or 3 best center forwards at this tournament. He pulls up with a non-contact injury about 10 minutes in. Really, really hurts the attack for this Morocco team, forced to come off. Canada then, they get their biggest opportunity about a minute later. It's Tani Oluwaseyi with this unbelievable spin, sort of on the move already. Spins, turns in the box, and then can't put his chance away against Bono, and probably one of those chances that will haunt him for a little while, will be discussed by Canada fans just in perpetuity in history. There's a bit of a fight in the 38th minute that I honestly, Prince of CONCACAF Richie didn't even really start or cause anything wrong, but gets involved, and then Morocco scores the opening goal on a free kick in the 50th minute that we watched and rewatched in every aspect for about 15 minutes before we came in here. Let's just go to the start, though. I thought it was the best half Canada played the entire World Cup. I thought it was a lot of what we thought we would see more of the tournament from Canada. And to do it against your best opponent in your biggest moment, I think is pretty impressive.
It was, and it was an impressive overall World Cup for Canada. It confirmed that run to the 2024 Copa America semifinals, that was not an aberration. That's what this group is. But it also confirmed the difference between Canada and the truly elite teams in the world. I kept waiting for Jonathan David to show up, and he just didn't, other than when playing 11v10 against a bunch of semi-pro guys in Qatar. And that was disappointing. Tani had that great turn. I didn't think he was sharp and incisive in his movements otherwise. Like, he couldn't find space, and he wasn't stressing the Moroccan backline off the ball. I thought he was good in the press, but not necessarily out of possession, and that was a little frustrating. And if you're goal scorers, if your center forwards aren't showing up and dictating the game and being dangerous like that, you need to win on set pieces. And Canada were terrible on set pieces this entire tournament long. Like, it started against Bosnia when, both on their own set pieces and defending Bosnia's, and it finished. This game was over in the 50th minute when it was 1-0. It was always more likely to end 2 or 3-0 than it was for Canada to get one back.
And let me just piggyback on that point. And I think despite the fact that Jesse Marsch set his team up really well and they had such an impressive first half, I blame him for what happens in the second half. The style of football that Jesse Marsch is married to is conducive to turnovers and quick attacking moments that can translate into goals. But when things aren't going well for you, it is also conducive to chaos. And we saw a lot of chaos in that second half right after they concede, or a few minutes after they concede the goal. All of a sudden, the pressing, can we even say, is even more aggressive from Canada. It's disjointed, though, because I think the players become rattled, and that opens up the spaces for Morocco to hit in transition. It was amazing. I said I think I wrote something along the lines of they threw the kitchen sink, or they threw caution to the wind far too early in that game. And I think at that point, that's when Marsch has to calm his team down. But that's not who he is. He's always so agitated on the sideline. And so in those moments for teams, it is imperative to have somebody in the technical area who can transmit some calm onto the team, and that doesn't happen.
See, I didn't feel it was that. Like, I didn't think Canada looked frazzled. I thought they kept fighting and they put Morocco under some pressure, even though it wasn't super well constructed. I thought the big issue was that Ouabi, the Moroccan head coach, he made a couple of really nice and, I thought, clever tactical shifts in their build-out. One of them was pushing Hakimi wider and higher just in their base setup, and then they were dropping Unahi, who was an attacking midfielder, all the way almost to that right center back position in a 3 during build-outs. And that's really tough to track, no matter what your formation is, no matter how committed you are. And that took away.
It changes the way you press.
It does. It changes the way you press. And it also takes away the main weapon for Canada, which is causing those high turnovers. And if Morocco are suddenly a little bit more comfortable with the ball, then how else are you going to create chances if you're Canada? And they don't really have an answer for that. And that's my argument with energy drink soccer. I don't think it has an answer for that if you're getting sort of out-tacticked on the field. And that's where I want to see over the next 2 years, heading into Copa America in 2028. I want to see this team be able to slow the game down, use the ball to pull teams apart a little bit, and let the ball do the work sometimes.
And it's the high turnover that creates Tanny's chance. Even with all the work he has left to do, it was a high turnover and then quickly played into his feet on the top of the 18, where one of my issues the whole tournament has been Tanny and Promise David. They are both slow in the open field, and then when you can get them around the box, great. Canada hasn't had the game around the box enough, and I would have just scrapped the position altogether, put another body in midfield, controlled the game a little bit more there, or have more chances to create. So I think, one, we watched this free kick a couple times. The ability for Morocco to get out quickly from what is a goal kick to get into the position that Luke Defuguru gives up the free kick.
And Rahimi, by the way, because you mentioned Saibari being injured, Rahimi, who's a very good forward, comes into this game and has an impact right from the start.
He missed a number of chances against Netherlands that would haunt most players, and he missed a chance in this game, but he comes back, he gets the goal, and he draws the foul. And then the actual free kick taken, it comes, back across the top of the box for Onani to score. And Canada, we watched it 15 times. They had almost everyone at the top of the 6, a million miles away for no reason, not really marking anyone. And Jonathan David at the last second is sort of repositioned a little bit closer, which is the only thing that puts any pressure on the ball. Otherwise, he's on the top of the 18 in a World Cup round of 16 game completely by himself, taking an open shot.
Yeah, I like I said, I don't understand Canada's set piece routines in attack, because correct me if I'm wrong, but that the whole counterattack that De Figueroa had to commit the foul on, that came off a
It was
Canada.
I think it was a secondary
Okay.
set piece. So the
Like-
initial
like a
ball came in, it got recycled,
Okay.
and it comes back in from the side.
Yeah. So,
But I mean, every Canada corner kick was low to the near post. It never got to anyone. Jonathan David ends up taking the free kick from the top of the 18. I don't know what world we live in where it's like, oh, this person's the best set piece taker, but they don't take shots.
Right.
They only place the ball exactly where you want it all the time. And then this guy who is incapable of taking a free kick, he'll take the high leverage ones and he'll put it. I mean, he tried to scoop that thing into the corner. If that thing's on goal, Bono doesn't even need to dive. He's
Right.
just standing,
He doesn't
catching
even
it.
catch it.
There's no pace on that ball at
yeah,
all.
it was weird to watch them be so inefficient and self-sabotaging on both sides of the ball. The one that ends up in Unahi's goal, I mean, that is. I would be livid if I was watching a UConn game and I saw UConn, which is a college team, defend a set piece like that. It can't happen. You have to have somebody at the top of the box. And, Buati is there semi-occupying Jonathan David. So you're kind of defending 2v3. Where is the leadership and understanding in order to address that in the moment from the players on the field, but also what are you doing in training?
Yeah.
That is how you set up to defend that in the first place.
Yeah, not only, and I mentioned this, I also think that line, because we have seen that sort of defending, zonal marking a lot in this tournament, but the last defensive line is further up the field. I think they're too close to
inside
Krakauer.
their own
And you're
six.
talking about the position of the ball, and I think you're right. I think you at least have to be in line with the ball, and that space is not too big for Kripo to dominate his airspace. So I think a lot of things went wrong there. By the way, can I just say something before I forget on the Morocco side? When we were talking about defenders of the tournament, Mazraoui has been unbelievable, and Issa Diop has also been very, very good.
And now he's playing with a second partner in this game because of the forced injuries. So I think an even more elevated performance. Bono had a fantastic game. Obviously born in Montreal. That was a huge storyline. He gave a really nice message to the Canadian fans after the game. And Morocco gave a pretty good difference of where Canada has come in 4 years because they played in the group stage at the last World Cup. And Morocco's coach said after the game, everything I was told about what it was like in 2022, it was not like that. They said they were open, they were easy to play against, right? John Herdman went out, he overextended the game, and that wasn't the case in this one. And Morocco really suffered. I think you see the experience of Morocco, both from AFCON and from the World Cup, that they understood, okay, this isn't our day. It's not Netherlands. We're not going to play with it. Let's just survive. And even against Netherlands, they had to survive through penalty kicks. This feels like a really battle-tested tournament team that understands the quality of the soccer is not always what's important. It's moving into the next game.
I'm a little bit surprised by something that Morocco didn't do. They tried it on a couple of occasions, and I thought it was going to be the way forward in the first half to relieve some pressure on the back line, which was to go direct and try and win second balls. They did the couple of times that they did it, it was semi-effective in that they won the second balls, nothing came out of it.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, there's the plan for the next 20, 25 minutes so that you give that back line a little bit of a rest.
I think part of it was Unahi was dropping so deep to help in the build-out
Yep.
so that they were harder to press. By the way, Unahi, this is the second time he's come into a World Cup and played this well and been on a team that has just gotten relegated.
Yeah.
I think it was Angers 4 years ago in France, and it was...
And nobody really talks about him.
He's so good.
Well, he came out of the last World Cup and did not play at the same level. I think he just likes playing for Morocco.
Yes.
And he's a bit of a specialist.
He
and
could-
if I was Raja Casablanca, I'd put everything I had on the
He
table.
could be another Lukasz Podolski.
Yeah.
He could be.
Come to MLS.
Yes, come on. I love that guy.
Charlotte
He's
FC.
so good.
So
Yeah.
Brahim Diaz helps create the second goal. Creates
good
the
in this
counterattack on his own. I have real problems, I think, with Jacob Schaffelberg's defending on that goal. I think he gets back into position with no intention of making a tackle. Diaz comes inside, so he's late to react, and now the layoff's there, and you get he gets his second goal, and then the last one to put it away. Canada's pushing everything forward. You had the free kick from Jonathan David down 1-0, and then you had Tejan Buchanan's long strike.
Oh, my
which
God.
was the only thing Tejan Buchanan's done in 3 weeks.
That,
But there were
the
better
fact that
options
he
on
didn't
that
play
play.
Jonathan David
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
So
drove me
frustrating.
nuts.
But also, finally, someone on Canada takes a shot. You had both things
Yeah.
happening at the same time with the frustration that happened in this game, and Morocco moves on. So Morocco will play against France. We'll talk about France in just a moment. Huge moment for this country. This is now the example of moving from interesting to dark horse into favorites. Morocco's the model. Everyone else is following Morocco going forward. Portugal's in that conversation as well of elevating from not a World Cup power into a World Cup power. I guess you could say Spain, but it's harder when you have the two best teams in the world in your league and maybe the best league in the world, so I'm not going to put them in there. Morocco's the model right now, the model that everyone is following.
Well, it's like what we've been talking about for almost a month now with, is Japan the model? Is Saudi Arabia the model?
Yeah.
South Korea, United States, Mexico, like Morocco's
Colombia.
done it.
Yeah.
The thing that we've all been aiming for, the thing that we talked about 4 years ago when we were doing those broadcasts, those podcasts, about how it's really just a group of like 8 or 9 teams in the entire world that actually have a chance. Morocco is knocking on the door to join that club. I don't think they're there yet. I do not.
Okay. Well, we'll find out.
Yeah.
Because if they beat France,
Then they're there.
after they did against Spain and Portugal,
then
last
I will
time,
shut the
then,
hell up.
They'll be in a World Cup semifinal for the second straight time, and they'll probably be there. I want to talk about one story, which we'll take into my overall thoughts. So Alphonso Davies does not appear in this game. Played about 15 minutes in the knockout game against South Africa. There's 15 different stories about why Alphonso Davies did not play in this game. He came out afterwards and said, I didn't feel 100%. Jesse asked me if I was 100%. I couldn't say yes, and I didn't want to be a drag on the team, so I didn't play. There are reports that Bayern Munich made the call. That Bayern Munich, after the ACL injury for Alphonso Davies while he was with Canada a year ago in the Nations League, which they felt was misdiagnosed, and therefore he played and put himself in worse condition, that Bayern had a doctor with him, and it was agreed that he did a lot of the rehab at Bayern and came and met the Canada team halfway through the run-up to this camp, that they made the call. There were reports that he warmed up at halftime, and then that was when he assessed that he couldn't do it. And then there's a story coming out of Canada from one of the Canadian TV hosts, Sid, I cannot pronounce his last name because I don't really care, who says he has a interview he did with Fonzie before the World Cup where Fonzie smokes Jesse Marsch, and the Canadian Soccer asked him not to put it out there, and that they actually don't get along, and that's the huge issue. I don't know, man. If you've got the story, put it out there. I don't think anyone's going to complain. I would be shocked if Alphonso Davies, going into a home World Cup, went and sat down with the TV host and talked about it. So that's a really interesting story. Congratulations to you.
Right.
So this is
that's real Soccer Nation stuff right there.
And it has been for a little while there.
You've made it.
But all of this goes into the larger context of how we look at this Canada World Cup. It's the first win in Canadian men's soccer history at a World Cup. It's the first knockout win in Canadian men's soccer history. They make it to a round of 16. Now they do so all as a host. And one of the things, the fact that Alphonso Davies, the best player in the country's history, plays 15 minutes at this World Cup, put me back into thinking through 2024, the Copa America, and 2022, the World Cup. And for any complaints that we could have about Jesse Marsch and the way he set up his team, this World Cup came at a terrible time for this Canadian national team pool. In 2024, Steven Eustáquio had played 40 games for FC Porto, 8 in the Champions League. He played 10 times for LAFC this year on loan because he couldn't find his feet. Jonathan David had scored 24 goals for Lille going into the 2024 Copa America. He scored 6 for Juventus this season. Alphonso Davies played about 500 minutes this season for Bayern Munich after coming off winning a Champions League going into the 2022 World Cup for this country. Moise Bombito spent the last 8 months out with a broken leg. Derek Cornelius came off being one of the best players in Sweden. This year, he spent 13 games on loan with Rangers because he couldn't get into the team he was on. Kyle Larin was a full-time starter for Besiktas and Majorca going into those 2 tournaments. He spent half this year on loan at Southampton, just begging for minutes, ended up playing about 800. Those other years, he played 1,400 minutes. When you look at this tournament and you look at specifically this game, they were bad in the biggest moments in both boxes. And you look at a group where no one came in at their peak, whether it was for health or for form reasons. There's only so much a coaching staff can do. There's only so much spirit and grit and post-game speeches and bringing swords and all that stuff can do. Canada has the players to compete at a high level. Can they beat Morocco on their day? Yes. Can they beat Morocco consistently? Probably not. Are they in the top conversation for the 10 to 20 best national teams at a tournament? I think so. This was not a great situation for them, and I think what they gritted out and did was just enough and was probably all that we should have expected.
They also missed Flores with an ACL tear.
Yeah.
And he was
I know,
meant to be. I know you. What? You're not a big fan? I don't think there's anything particularly special about him.
But when you lose a guy who's already made the roster,
Yeah.
it's a bad situation
He's made
for a
the-
national
he's made
team.
the
I
roster-
genuinely think Jaden Nelson's a better player, but okay.
And
Who
I'm
also
surpri-
was hurt the whole year.
Yep.
And I'm surprised I didn't see more of him in this.
I think he's been carrying a knock.
Okay,
Yeah.
but Flores, the expectation was that Flores was going to get considerable minutes in this tournament. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, in
And Ali-
2022, coming into the World Cup, Jonathan David scored 15 goals in Ligue 1. In 2024, he scored 19 goals. He scored 6 goals in Serie A this year.
He looks like a very different player.
Yeah,
He looks passive.
Ali Ahmed was carrying a knock coming, and he was like the best player in the
And
championship.
Ismail Kone broke his leg in this tournament.
So the tweet I put out or on Blue Sky was like, their 4 best players coming into this tournament were Alphonso Davies, clear number 1, Moist Bombito, Ismail Kone, and Jonathan David. 3 were injured to varying degrees for varying amounts of time, and the 4th just didn't show up.
Yeah.
And they still got to the round of 16, and they had Morocco in hell for that first half.
Yes.
Like, they had their chances, and it didn't come down to we were missing those injured guys. It was our $10 million forward who plays for a Champions League team in La Liga didn't finish his chances.
Yeah.
Like, that is really good. That is, and hey, they only scored other than the Qatar game, I think they only scored 3 goals.
Yeah.
And they conceded 9. So it's obviously they need to figure some stuff out. Obviously, they need to be more ruthless. Obviously, I don't think anybody in CONCACAF or CONMEBOL is going to want to face this team in 2 years at Copa America. I think Canada's legit.
Let me just put the numbers on some of that. I took out the Qatar game. This came from Alex Gangue-Ruzi, who I think covers this team as well as anyone. So taking out the Qatar game. So you have South Africa, Morocco, Switzerland, and Bosnia. They won the XG battle, 5.1 to 3.03. They outshot their opponents 48 to 25. They had 118 touches in the box against their opponents who had 46. But they scored 3 goals and conceded 6, and they missed 9 big chances. So that shows you off, underlying numbers, their performances. And then this is the hope and the promise. This is 2030. Alphonso Davies will be 29. Ali Ahmed will be 29. Tejan will be 31. Jonathan David will be 30. Promise David will be 28. Luke DeFugaro will be 24. Shigor, who started this game, 26 years old. Alistair Johnson, 31. Ismail Kone, who fingers crossed we hope is able to come back and be the guy he was, 27. Liam Miller, 30. Moist Bombito, 30. This was not a team that this is the peak of a golden generation. I think it's probably not the same as the U.S., the open of a pipeline. Because some of these guys are special in a way that's hard to find. But similar in that 4 years ago, it's like, where are we going to find center backs? Where are we going to find fullbacks? Where are we going to find replacements? And it was really just, are guys going to go out and find their own careers? Because we don't have a pipeline to get them there. And now you look at Ali Ahmed, who not only got dumped by TFC Academy, but then gets picked up by Vancouver and gets pushed through the system. Nathan Saliba, Ismail Kone. Ismail Kone, 8 years ago, he's still working his way through the Belgian second division to try and get himself exposed. Instead, he comes back, he plays for CF Montreal, and he's able to push his way through. And on top of that, Derek Cornelius will be 32. Steven Eustachio will be 33.
Ralph Priso will be around as well.
Yes. Yep.
This team's not going anywhere.
Yep.
And I think overall it has to be understood that this was a good tournament for them. It came at the wrong time. I think they got as much as they could. Jesse's absurd. The comments about I'd rather be them. I think he misspoke and said I'd rather be coaching this team. Like, I think what he was trying to say is I'm happy with this and I'm proud of
And
us.
with the performance. I mean, he must have been ecstatic except for the fact that they couldn't score. But I mean, he must have been ecstatic with the performance.
But he said a weird comment afterwards because he's weird and he does weird stuff and he's
everybody
whatever.
eats it up.
But
James Pantemis needs to be in this roster as soon as this World Cup is over because he is an upgrade over what they have in goal elsewise.
But everybody thought that what happened in between the pipes would be an issue, and it hasn't been.
Oh, I think it hadn't helped them.
Yeah.
I think if Dane St. Clair had been at the peak he was at last year, they would have been a better team. I think they would have played more confidently. If not, if Maxime Crépeau was at the peak he was 4 years ago when he was with LAFC before he broke his leg, I think they could have played a higher line and have more confidence to do it because he was covering ground.
Especially if Bombito is healthy to cover him by...
Let's move to the next game because Jordan's going to leave in about 4 hours now because all we've talked about is Canada, but it was a huge performance and a huge World Cup for them. Let's talk about Paraguay versus France, which will be the other side of this quarterfinal. France wins 1-0 in Philadelphia on July 4th. The birth of our nation, Idina Menzel, was there to welcome them into the game. And France are through to their 9th World Cup quarterfinal. Only Brazil, Germany, and England have reached this round more often. And France survived with a 1-0 victory over a penalty kick from Kylian Mbappe. I'm just going to say it. I like the way Mbappe was this game. I like the BS from him, and I like the way post-game he had the energy, because we've seen this tournament. Poch was an example of, like, teams don't win the way you want, and it's like sadness comes on them. And I think Mbappe led the charge immediately with, we got through to the next round of the World Cup. That's all that matters. Don't talk to me about any other bullshit. He was hyped up, and then he refused to shake the Paraguay in his hands, which I love.
Yeah.
You're going to be in my face about this the whole game, then you can suck it up. You want an autograph, you want to change jerseys, pay money, because I'll go do a signing at Dick's Sporting Goods after this. And that's what I like from Kylian Mbappe, and that's leadership stuff. Yes, yeah,
I don't disagree. I thought the part with Heel, because I don't think Heel was one of those guys
fine.
doing that. I would have actually, had I been Heel, but that's just the kind of person I am, and I think you are too, I would have kicked the ball at him and not just thrown it at him, because I would have felt slighted and have aggro issues. I was told by a former student the other day. But I also, on the other side of this, I think there's been gross exaggeration about Paraguay's dark arts. I mean, this is what they've had to rely on. But yes, to your point specifically, and we'll touch on the other things, I did like the way Mbappe acted in this game, in that he didn't get triggered by everything that was happening. The fact that he was smiling at Galarza, who was worth the price of admission. My goodness, I loved watching him. I just wanted him to be everywhere with all his antics and anti-game tactics. So Mbappe, great leadership, winning mentality, and the most important thing, France go through, which we all knew they would.
They played really tough. They didn't get baited into anything. Right. The refs should never work again. No. I have no problem with what Paraguay did.
Agreed.
Anybody who's watched CONCACAF, that felt very, very familiar. The fact that they got out of that game without picking up a single card is check the betting lines, check the bank accounts, because that is insane. But I loved what Galarza brought. I hope Atlanta United find a way to keep him. And this is the thing.
I think they've already announced that the loan is over, right?
The loan is over, but there's been reporting that they're working on a way to get him back. Mm-hmm. But this is where the DP rule...
Price of the brick just went up.
Yeah, the DP rule is such a hindrance, because is he worth a DP slot? No. Probably not, but he's also the type of guy who makes the team and thus the league better, and MLS needs to have better mechanisms, simpler mechanisms to get guys like that. He's just entering the prime of his career, and he clearly cares. Yeah. Get him into the league.
The exaggeration stuff on the Paraguay reaction, I already made a joke about it. I listened to a British newspaper international podcast, and the phrasing they used was off the charts. There was a couple elbows thrown underneath the game, whatever. I don't know. I'm sorry. Was anyone born yesterday? I didn't realize there was 11 newborn babies on the field. Besides that, they tried to scuff up a PK spot. That's what we're talking about.
That's not proper gentleman's
sportsmanship. No, it's not.
Honestly,
it wouldn't fly at Eton or whatever school. What was the name of your school?
Seaford College.
That wasn't as proper and classy as I thought it was.
Proper enough.
Yeah. It was close. And McKelly had said to me yesterday, he was talking about the final possession stats. We were sort of going back and forth. Finished 76% for France. I think it was 79 at halftime. So approaching 80% possession for France. And France struggled in creating chances. I didn't think it moved around the final third as quickly as it can. And they didn't get enough runners in the box to then make crossing a huge threat. Yeah. And so Paraguay could sit in because they didn't have to extend their lines to close everything down. In saying that, I would be surprised if France faced a group like this again at the World Cup. So they survived. They move on. They can shift back towards somewhat normal game states. And they have shown that there are multiple bags in there, or multiple tools in their bag. Doué comes off the bench, doesn't start.
And I knew he was going to be a game changer, because that's exactly what the game needed. Somebody who can navigate those tight spaces with tight control. And he gets brought down in the penalty. I want to say something about that penalty, but I want to highlight a player. I thought Andres Cubas was outstanding in this match.
Oh my God, he was great.
Outstanding. He is... Andres Cubas is the kind of player that you can slot in almost any team in the world. I really mean that. With the ball at his feet, is he the best player in the world? No, but he's good enough. But you put him on a top team in England, not the very top, but you put him on a team that's competing for Europe, he's going to make that difference defensively for you. He's going to win so many duels that is going to allow other players to have a little bit more liberty of movement on the field. He cut out so many plays where France could have caused serious problems and then allowed Paraguay to break in transition. And this is where I got really frustrated with Paraguay. They moved to a back five for the first time in this tournament. I can understand why, given the experience they had with the U.S., where the half spaces were so well occupied by American players. But I think they had sort of tinkered and tailored with the system where they closed those spaces. And so I think that they lost a little bit of identity, as much of identity you could say they have going forward. And then I thought that Enciso and Almiron did too much, expended too much energy when going forward in situations where you knew they were headed into a cul-de-sac.
They ran into dead ends at full speed.
At full speed, and that frustrated me. Now, the other thing I want to say, this was a discussion I had with my friends in the game. The penalty, it's a foul. Okay, It is a foul. There's no doubt that it's a foul. But when you watched it in live time and when you watched the replay in live time, it wasn't that easy to discern that it was a foul. Yeah. And so my issue was, yes, it's a foul, but it wasn't called on the fields. And unless you're freeze framing it, unless you're going into slow motion, which again, you're not supposed to do.
Whoa, no, please.
I don't think you overturn that. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Interesting. So what I would say is, freeze frame or not, the reason the foul's called is not because of force. And force is what freeze frame takes context out of.
Yeah.
It's because of the contact. And so if the contact is missed and then you show the contact, it's a penalty. There's no other conversation around it.
Yeah.
First, the red card convo around Balogun is the freeze frame takes away the context of he gets pushed off. He's not aiming for anyone.
I think
there's no force in there.
I think that's a good.
So it comes closer to the black and white of does it cross the line or does it not?
The other aspect of that play, not being called and then called back, immediately after the uncalled foul, there is a turnover and a transition opportunity in which Miguel Almiron tries to go 1v1 against Upamecano.
And is brought down.
And he outruns him for about 30 yards, and then Upamecano blows right past him. And at the end of the sprint, that was the end for Miggy. So it was a play. It was a play that would not have even stood. If he had beaten Upamecano and scored a goal and made it 1-0 Paraguay, it would have been chalked off. And Paraguay lost their second best player, their best attacker in that moment because of the way the game had been officiated. Yeah. I think France wins anyway. I'm happy to see the end of Paraguay.
They deserve to win.
Yes.
I'm happy to see the end of Paraguay.
You don't want to see that in the latter stages. It's
absolutely
anti-football.
And it was fun.
But I wouldn't be super thrilled if I was a Paraguay fan right now.
No,
but Paraguay was fun. The Germany game was fun.
Yeah.
I thought they give a foil. If you want to paint France as the hero, then they're a villain. If you want to paint France as the Giants, then they're the David. Whatever it was, they played their role in a lot of this, and they are themes that we enjoy about a World Cup and we enjoy about these games. And I thought they went in, and at least to their credit, I thought to all of Gustavo Alfaro's bluster, and I think this goes along with Jesse Marsch stuff, there's about 7% an international coach can affect. You can't recruit players. You're not signing players. You have...
Funny enough, Paraguay does recruit players.
Nationals, but they have only so much time to work with these players, especially Alfaro taking over. He didn't have the full cycle, although he's gone a long way. All of the red clay stuff, all of the fatherless, all this stuff clearly fueled this team the extra 2% that they needed, and they put together the most historic performance in Paraguayan soccer history.
And it is a factor. Look, economics are a factor in all these things. You talked about Cape Verde and the fact that they'll have money to invest in soccer on the islands, so that's a factor, but I won't go into that. I do want to say this about the referee. Tantashev, we've seen him in big games before. This was a disastrous performance, and there's a very good chance that FIFA are going to be like, yeah, you're not doing any other tournament ever. But the point that I want to make here is one that I've thought about for a very long time about these tournaments. There are good referees in all confederations. But leagues that referees ref in have different degrees of difficulty and quality. And I think that when you get to these stages of a tournament, you either need referees with a lot of quality who've reffed big games consistently, or at least referees who are somewhat familiar with the style of football that these teams play. So, for example, we've been saying that Paraguay play CONCACAF football. First of all, a lot of people are forgetting that a lot of CONMEBOL football is played this way as well.
It's CONCACAF football,
right?
yeah.
But why not have a CONCACAF referee for this game?
Because it would be Ivan Barton.
Yeah, maybe.
Although I thought Drew
Fisher was great.
I thought Drew Fisher suffered at times. I mean, he let Sidney Lopes Cabral go make out with someone in the crowd in the middle of his game.
Wouldn't you?
No,
Wouldn't you?
maybe.
That was the guy who read the room. Are you
What is it that
kidding?
we say? The spirit of the game? That was the spirit of the game.
Yeah, I understand your point. Having some familiarity with what's about to occur and then having experience dealing with it can help, because his issue was he never dealt with anything Paraguay did. And he always dealt with France's reaction. And the reactions get caught, that's fine. Yeah. But over the course of 90 minutes, at some point, you and your staff have to get wise and say, oh, by the way, France isn't for no reason consistently coming up and pushing guys and yelling at guys after the play and fighting. Yep. Something's happening before, and if it's over the line, we can make the call. Mbappe, the celebration's great, pointing back, being like, these guys are trying to scuff the spot. It really doesn't matter. I'm putting this thing in the back of the net. And France is now moving on to the World Cup quarterfinals.
Was maybe my favorite Mbappe performance ever. Like the way he carried himself.
In the mud and then goes for it.
In the game.
And then his post-game press conference where he talked about, he's like, they thought we were going to show up wearing tuxedos. They thought they were going to bully us. We can get in the dirt. We can play dirty.
And to his credit, unlike the people covering this game, he said different people play different ways. Yeah. Everyone has a right to play their way. We played a way that moves to the next round. Yeah. That's the story.
Yeah, good for him.
That's it. Yeah. And that's how you handle it. The only thing I will say, and here's a little CONCACAF experience that should be gifted to the French. When that game ends, everyone's job who didn't play or works for that team is to get your players to the other side of the field.
Form a wall.
And do not talk about shaking hands and sportsmanship. You do that after the game then. Yeah. You can call the Paraguayans, find their hotel, go, and shake hands later. Yeah. You don't do it on the field when reds and yellow cards can still be handed out. Get the hell away from them.
It's
and
just funny
it took too long for that to happen, and that part France was not
Let me just make
for.
one more point about Mbappe. So far throughout this tournament, he's averaging something like 26 defensive recorded interventions a game, which is about twice the number that he averaged.
He's online.
He knows. Madrid. He knows.
I just want to make the point, in a game filled with shithousery, he ultimately is the biggest shithouser at the end of the game.
It was a great day.
He's won my heart this time.
France-Morocco is going to be everything in the quarterfinals. It's going to be in Boston, where France has been base camp. Morocco has already played there, so there should be good familiarity. It's the last game up in Boston of the tournament, and it is, of course, two teams that have a lot of crossover, a lot of experience. They faced off in the semifinals of the 2022 World Cup, and now you get the revenge game for Morocco here in the quarterfinals. A lot of new players. A lot of them chose Morocco over France. There are other players who chose France over Morocco. And, of course, there's just quality oozing out of both of these sides. Ismail Sabiri being out could be a huge factor.
Do we know if he's out?
No, but you pull up 10 minutes into a World Cup game, a non-contact, and you take yourself out. I think he was listed. He had the second most high-intensity sprints of the group stage.
He's a wonderful player.
And coming off one of them has already been sold to Bayern Munich for 50 million euros, I believe. So Bayern made sure to get that deal done nice and quickly. Speaking of some good young players who might have some moves coming up, let's talk Brazil versus Norway. So that's going to be the first game today, 4 p.m. Eastern time. As we said, the temperature has dropped here in New York, so it should be perfect weather on the banks of East Rutherford, New Jersey, the heartbeat of American economy, and one of the most gorgeous settings you could have for a Brazil-Norway game. To talk about this one, though, we're going to go back into our Football Manager 26 because we've been talking about the best young players. We talked about the potential Young Player Award winners, and one of them is Antonio Nusa. Antonio Nusa had another big season with RB Leipzig this year. he is a huge reason that Holland has been able to help elevate this team. And the Nusa goal against Ivory Coast is one of those moments that we're going to remember about this World Cup.
Delightful. He's one of those players with hypnotizing hips, drops the shoulder, can zig, can zag. He gives Norway in the attack a dimension that nobody else gives the team. And like your favorite Swiss player and like others in the tournament, the wild card that every team needs, particularly those European teams that tend to be a little bit more static, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And it before he sort of elevated, it was easy to defend narrow against Norway and just try to take away the center forward pairing. With the threat he presents out wide, even when he's not playing well, and frankly, I didn't think he was that good in the group stage game, but then we saw what he did in the knockout round.
One of the top-rated dribblers on Football Manager. He was one of the best in UEFA qualifying. He is one of the fastest players as well. And then reading, everyone thinks I'm going end line for Holland. I'll come inside and I'll score one of the best goals of the tournament at a time when Norway was not in that game against Ivory Coast. And that momentum shift probably saves their opportunity to still be alive in the World Cup. You can download Football Manager 26 International Mode now on Steam, your favorite consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. And it is 50% off running through July 9th. Antonio Nusa is trying to carry one of the most interesting pieces of history in the global game. Norway are the only team in international football to have played Brazil multiple times and remained undefeated.
Whoa.
They have played them 4 times. They have won 2. They have drawn 2. The last time, Norway upset Brazil at the 1998 World Cup 2-1 in the group stage. It is like
Fjortorf. Was Fjortorf who scored the goal?
You are beyond me on that one.
Do you remember the big story from that game? It was the penalty kick given by American referee Essie Baharmist for a tug on the jersey of one of the Norwegian players. And it was scandalous in the moment because there wasn't a good angle. And only the next day was it revealed that there was a photo of the Brazilian player grabbing the Norwegian player and dragging him down. So for 24 hours in the middle of the 1998 World Cup, which was already a nightmare for Americans, it was more Americans can't play the game and they can't officiate the game. They're ruining the tournament. So
it was the third game of the group stage. Brazil had already won their first 2 games. They finished top of the group on 6 points. Bebeto scored in the 78th. T.A. Flo. Torre Andre Flo scored the opener in the 83rd, and the penalty kick ends up being scored by Ketchel Andre Rekdal.
Yeah, but I was Rekdal, I remember, but it was Torre Andre Flo that I was thinking about, and not Fjortorf.
Yeah.
Physically similar players.
Probably won't have a ton of relevance on today's game. I think this is a Brazil team that has some clear struggles through central midfield, and I think they have ways that they can be beat. I don't believe Norway has those tools to take advantage of it. And I think it comes down to
justice for Essie Baharmist.
Essie, call us. Let's talk about it. I think this one comes down to final third quality from the star players. Holland will get a chance or a half. Nusa probably will be the one who creates it. Odegaard's been fine throughout the tournament. I don't think Odegaard, Berg, and Berge control midfield enough to expose Casemiro in a way that another team will.
So I thought adding Berg to the mix and then Odegaard also playing his best game of the tournament against Ivory Coast, I actually think that they can cause some problems.
But why do you think Odegaard played his best game against Ivory Coast?
Because Berg was added to the mix.
Interesting. I think it's because he sat the final game of the group stage, and now these games are coming tighter and higher level.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could end up being the case. But also the weather not being 106 degrees today is probably pretty helpful. But my point is that those 3 guys together, I think, balance each other really well. And Berg's so clever in how he moves off the ball and can add that extra runner. And that's what Odegaard needs to be most effective.
And because Berg played, Berge was better.
Yeah.
Again, I'm going to go back to this because I'm constantly trying to retract about what I said about Berge, about being a player with limitations. I think he can, with Berg on the field alongside Odegaard, Berge can do what he does best. Sit, protect, destroy, simplify the game. He's not asked to do anything else. But my question for this game is the following. You got Nusa on one side, Solbakken continues to insist on Sorloth on the right, and
It's got to be Oscar Bob.
And I understand why. I understand why, because he gives you.
Do you?
I do.
That makes one of us.
No, I do understand why. Because you add another player who comes in centrally to hold up play and to win duels, which is something that Norway needs to do. And because he's such a threat when they get the ball wide and set it in.
It's a second forward.
It's a
second
second forward
4-4-2, but he drops in and defends out of the right side.
Not only is it a second forward, he is simply one of the best finishers in European football, especially with the first touch. He reminds me of Bastos. Do you guys remember Bastos? The Dutch forward. Sorloth is like that. But in a game like this, where Norway is going to be deprived of the ball, they're going to hit in transition where they play their best football, because you get the best out of Odegaard. Bring in Oscar Bob. Yeah. Play Oscar Bob. Look how good he was off the bench. And then all of a sudden, you have these two dynamic wing players who can take on players. And by doing that, you open up more space for Holland.
You force Brazil to defend wide, and you put their fullbacks in a situation where they have to decide, do I go or do I stay?
And they're not very good fullbacks.
Because if they go, then suddenly Marquinhos or Gabriel has to come out and help, because you don't want to leave anyone defending in isolation on either side. And then suddenly that has an effect of allowing Erling Haaland to get in isolation both on and off the ball. I think it's just the most obvious choice that I'm preemptively angry.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Gabriel against Haaland. Yes, please, and thank you. Yeah. Again, those two guys don't like each other. Cannot wait for this game.
Yeah, this one has a lot of fun elements to it. Reports are that Rafinha fully trained yesterday. I'd be surprised if you'd start him just because of how well Ryan's played, and then also read the game. When do you need Rafinha? Where do you need him? And the other piece that came out of the last game was he brought Martinelli on. He brought Endrick on.
To play centrally.
For sure.
Which was, I don't think I've ever seen Martinelli play centrally.
And guess what? He scored the game.
He was super effective.
I spent the 30 minutes texting friends about how stupid it was, and then he scored the game winner because genius stuff.
I mean, we have to have a conversation about your takes.
But it would give Don Carlo a little bit of an opportunity to read the game and say, where do I want? Who do I bring Rafinha in for? Who do I move around?
I think at this point, Carlo is kind of committed to playing those super mobile, wingers essentially as center forwards, because the idea is to clear out space for Vinny to attack. And that's what Martinelli did, even though it was Martinelli who got the goal. Yeah. And that's what Cunha's been doing when things have been going well.
I knock Casemiro. I just don't think there's another option. Fabinho is like the only other option, and he's 32 playing in Saudi Arabia. I don't know that he can elevate his game, so I don't know there's an obvious move to take Casemiro out, and I think that will be a question mark the entire course of this tournament.
I don't understand. I understand he had a poor first half, but he was outstanding for Manchester United this season. He's clearly fit. Now, is he going to catch, who is it that scores the goal for Japan, who takes the shot?
Maeda?
No, it wasn't Maeda. It was the
Ueda.
No, it wasn't. It was the center mid, Saba or whatever. I can't think of his name. The one who really should have been off before he scored the goal for a foul that wasn't called on Cunha for a second yellow.
It was Sano.
It was Sano who scored. He wasn't going to catch Sano, but he was already on the yellow. And if there was any opportunity to catch him, he's still not going to foul him because he's already on the yellow. But his second half, what he brings to you in set-piece plays, and when he plays well, which he did in the second half, he's just too good to drop.
But it was such a different game state.
Yes.
He played in the attacking third for 45 minutes in the second half because Japan had no threat. Guess what?
But it's a giveaway in that situation.
Guess what? Odegaard, Haaland, Nusa, it's going to be a completely different threat. Yeah. Now, I don't think Norway's the team. I think Brazil wins this game. I think Brazil moves on. I think Brazil's in trouble. That's my point on if Odegaard plays at the level he played at last game, fantastic. Because if he does, he can really threaten this team. But my point is that as you go through this, so let's go into, for Brazil, if they were to win this game, they would move forward. They would play the winner of Mexico and England. I don't know that Mexico's maybe the team, but if it's Jude Bellingham, that's where your problems start to come into place. I don't think Casemiro can keep up with people in that area, and I don't think he could do so alone, which is what Brazil's asking. Maybe that's part of it. Guimarães is going to push forward. The team's built on their attack. Both fullbacks are going to get high, and maybe it's just too much work for him at this time. But Carlo Ancelotti's won literally everything he's ever been around, and what do we know? So this is going to be a great game to start the day, and then the second game of the day. We've been talking about it over and over and over again. It is going to be Mexico against England. Is going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern time. You've got the Mexico kit on, one of 15. We've got one back here as well.
I made so many friends on my own.
You can go to soccer.com to grab all of that gear, as well as a special ball if you want to commemorate this game, which I think many people may want to do. I'm seeing Saints put in Mexico jerseys. I'm seeing Dogs put in Mexico jerseys. It's everywhere. So if you're going to want to commemorate this game, you can go get a Trianda with the exact match ball. And you can get that from soccer.com, as well as a bunch of other gear to celebrate and support these teams. We've talked about altitude and all these things, blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, you get ready for this game. What are you thinking about? What's the difference?
I mean, Thomas Tuchel is saying that the difference has to be the pace of play. He wants England to play slower and more measured. He thought that they've been too impatient both on and off the ball. And I got to tell you, that is not what I have seen. I feel like this team has been static and kind of predictable and kind of one note. And that note is almost always Harry Kane dropping deep to try to orchestrate something out of relatively little. And because the movement is static, he's getting on the ball with few options other than the obvious one, which is hit a long diagonal.
Yeah, I think he's got some personnel decisions to make that might be a little bit difficult. Do you play Madueke or Saka? Is Saka fully fit? Nobody knows. What do you do on the left side? Is it Rashford or is it Gordon? Gordon hasn't played well or didn't play well, but he gets 2 assists in the last game. Different sort of dynamics. One's more of a stretcher, the other one's more of a dribbler and a guy who cuts inside. I think if you go any slower than they've already played, they're not moving.
Which may actually be the way to survive the Azteca. Because I do think there's a question for Mexico, which is, do you open up, do you come out with energy because you try and push England? But does that expose you? Or do you try and make them last longer and then up the level
Rely
of
on the
intensity?
final 30 minutes.
I think,
But at that point, have you worked England hard enough that it affects them? Because you've got the different sides of this of high-intensity sprints start to get harder and go down. But for England, they might feel most comfortable their opening 50 minutes. Or I've never been trying to breathe like this before. I feel worse.
I don't think you give them an instant.
Exactly.
I think
Like you come out like Ecuador.
Oh yeah,
it's going to be balls to the wall from the start.
especially because they've rotated, right? Like there's almost nobody on that Mexico squad who's played 360 minutes.
Yeah.
Has anybody? So it's like this is a team that should be fresh, and Aguirre has to weaponize that and get ready for a line change at the 60th minute because you want to keep the pressure on and you want to keep the intensity high and you want to make England suffer over the final half hour.
And you have the example against Ecuador. Yeah. Look what happens when you start strong. You can maybe decide the game in the first 25 minutes. Eric Lira is a guy that we haven't spoken enough. He's been outstanding. He's another player. If Mexico beat England and Eric Lira has another good game, anyone who's been paying close attention to Mexico and to all these matches and who isn't completely starstruck by all the superstars in this tournament would say that Eric Lira deserves a look in for
best 11.
Best 11.
One of the best defensive midfielders we've seen at this tournament.
Yeah.
Roberto Alvarado has played 338 minutes. He leads the team at this tournament so far. Quinones at 330. Jesus Gallardo got that last game off for the most part, so he's at 283. So for the most part, they have rotated. Roberto Alvarado's played incredible in this tournament. Sucks as a player as well, so he's not the one I'd be most worried about. It feels fairly straightforward for Mexico that we're going to see Montez and Vasquez at the center back positions. It feels fairly straightforward that Edson Alvarez, I mean, I don't think he really changed much coming out of that game. So there's all these debates we've had, all these question marks. It's hard to see them shift in a different way because they've been so successful. On the England side of things, it seems like Kwanzaa's healthy. Reece James probably not going to make it back for this game. I would assume if he did, you don't start him because that's like a huge ask. And that right back spot has been a bit of a hole both in the attack and defending for this group.
I mean, Jed Spence really struggled last round against DR Congo. So that could be a big change. But it's tough to bring guys who are battling injuries in this situation, in the knockout rounds, but also obviously at altitude. Because I've heard it's tough to run at altitude.
Maybe he can borrow Wan-Bissaka. He's no longer playing with DR Congo. That would be a move.
If it was me, by the way, I would start Madueke for the energy that I actually think he's been fine. Everyone's talked. I thought
agree.
he beat guys against DR Congo. I thought he was the only one creating anything. If Saka's available to start, I would start both of them and push one of them to the left. If not, I'd start Anthony Gordon on the left side. I think Rashford's better as a super sub in this group. He watches the game from the sideline. He finds his gaps. He comes in. He'll score goals. He doesn't really create for you. And I think it isolates Harry Kane even more to just be the pure creative.
The other aspect of it is Gordon's just going to run in behind time and time and time again. And that at least keeps Mexico honest in terms of, bringing their lineup. Whereas, Rashford stays wide sometimes, but he doesn't attack into the depth.
Antonio Gordano, ready for this game. He's already making his Scott McTominay shift from being this northern home nations guy to a Mediterranean-based person, and he's ready to rock and roll. This game, very exciting. Mexico's first game at the Azteca since the Hand of God and the game against Diego Maradona. For Mexico, I mean, we've said it over and over. When are you going to get a better shot? You get England at home. They don't have time to adjust. You want to get into a level you've never been at a World Cup, doing it in a home World Cup. I don't think you're getting a fourth anytime soon. Yeah. Like, you've hosted 3 World Cups. You've had 3 big opportunities. 86 was the best they've ever done at a World Cup for a reason. This is your opportunity. This is your shot. And it seems very clear that the group knows that. They've settled in as a group, which for Mexico is not always the case. And there's been a lot of talk. I'm watching video right now of fireworks being shot at one of England's 21 hotels that they booked to try and throw people off.
With the buses throwing people off as well.
Yeah.
I love that. That's got to be one of the stories
Hope
of the
they
World
brought their
Cup,
own toilet
as
paper,
well as
though.
your chihuahuas that you were sending this morning, the videos.
Tomorrow, based off how this game goes, we'll either explain Wilfred Nancy and diarrhea and CONCACAF and all of this, or England will do something really special. They will go to an area of the world they've never really played at, and they will do something.
Not in 40 years.
Yeah,
predictions?
Not for these guys.
Predictions?
I'm going to say I've come off. I thought it was like Mexico 3-0 for about a week. And then yesterday I came off. I'm going to say Mexico 2-1.
I'm going to say the same thing. Mexico 2-1 after extra time.
2-0.
Oh, I love it.
Harry Kane fighting for his spot in history.
2-0 in Mexico's favor.
Yeah. I was wondering if somebody was going to ask me that. Yes. I think, you know what, man? It's Mexico's tournament.
Oh, I disagree. I think they're going to land in Miami and they're going to turn to pumpkins.
That's
but,
good.
But they get to be Cinderella for one more night.
Yeah, I mean that in itself is
altitude.
enough. Yeah,
it's going to be a blast. It's going to be fun. I'm going to be eating tacos the whole day in honor of it, and I will be back tomorrow alongside some of these beautiful people because the U.S. plays tomorrow.
Oh, I had forgotten that.
So we'll have a daily live show. We'll talk about the USA game. We'll talk about Belgium. We'll talk about these results. We will also have a live post-game show. Myself, Doyle, and Michele, as we've done every single game, will be back afterwards live on the SoccerWise YouTube channel to talk about whichever direction it goes in. Could be the biggest win in U.S. men's national team history. It could be a loss, and like we did with Canada, we will put it into some context, and we'll be here to commiserate with all of you. So enjoy the games today. Thank you to both of you for being here. Big shout out to everyone else involved, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.